Good morning. Good morning. Thank you. Okay, today we're going to start on 24b. Chaf Dalet Amud Beis. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. And the source of our learning, we should have Beis Hamikdash immediately. My parents are going back to Eretz Yisrael today. Safe trip. Okay, the Gemara has a question like this. It's 12 lines down, I think. I don't know exactly. 10, approximately 12 lines. It says, Hiboilo, they have a question. What happens if someone incites his friend's dog to bite someone else? So Reuben has a dog, and Levi comes along and like starts poking it and directs it to go bite Shimon. So the Gemara says like this: Mishasavade pater. Levi, that's there with a stick, poking the dog, tormenting it. He's exempt because he didn't do the damage. He is just what's called a goyrem. That's just a grama. The rule is that when you cause a damage, classical case of causing a damage would be if you put a ladder up to your friend's bird nest. Now the animals can run up there and now you didn't do the damage, but you made the damage accessible. So here he didn't do the damage, but he provoked it over here. He incited the dog to go and do that. So he's pater because we can't extract payment for something that's just a cause. The Dina Shemayim, the Chayav, but not in our courts. However, what about Balakelev? Balakelev Mai, what about the owner of the dog? Miyamrina and Matsiyamale, do we say the owner of the dog can say, Ana Maya Vidnale? I didn't do anything. He incited the dog. He poked the dog until he went and bit him. Like even the other bekalbach the mishasila, you mish to say leibach lashui. You know that your dog could get incited. You know that if someone provokes it, it's going to go and bite. You shouldn't have let it hang around. Amar Reb Zera. Reb Zera says Tashima. Come and let's hear. You hear the question? Does the owner of the dog have to pay, even though he was not the one that incited it, but the fact is he's the owner of a dog that does get incited. So Tashima, come and listen. The tam, if you have a tam, that's the animal that did not gore 3 times. So when does it become a tam? After it was a muad already because it gored 3 times. That's if the children can play with it and it doesn't gore. Let's see, it does gore, and it'll be chayiv. Now, 1 second. The children were playing with it. What do the children do when they play with this dog or with this animal? They poke it and they sit on its back and they do everything that you're not supposed to do. So, if the children did that, and then it went and bit someone, we would say chayiv. That's what's implied from this. Why is it a tam? Because it didn't. If it would have, then the owner would have to pay. We see that when someone incites an animal against someone else, the owner has to pay. Amar Abaya says, Miktani naga chayiv. It doesn't even say that if it gores, it's chayiv. That's not what it said. Dilma hanagach lehavitam. Maybe if it gores, it just won't be a tam. You see, you implied something that wasn't necessarily the implication of what we were saying. We were saying, if you have an animal that gores 3 times, now you want it to not be a muad. So we watch it, we see that the children play with it and it doesn't gore. So you implied from that, but if it does gore, that that the owner's going to have to pay. That wasn't the point. The point was if it does gore, it's not going to be a tam. That's the whole point. Payment, that's a different story. Regarding the payment, what it does, that not necessarily will he have to pay. We just know that it's not a tam because of gourd. But regarding the payment, we could say that maybe because it wasn't cited, the owner doesn't have to pay. Tashma. You have all the time. You have people that they get into fights or whatever, and they say, "What happened?" They say, "He made me angry." That's their excuse. Okay. Someone incites a dog or someone incites a snake, so he's going to be exempt. Now, who's exempt? We say, my love, pater mishasa. Probably the one that incited is exempt. Why? Because the one that incites is only a goyrem. He's only causing the damage. He didn't actually do the damage. He just poked the animal until it got angry, and then it went and bit someone. So v'chayev balakelef, probably the owner of the dog would actually be chayev. It's only the who's pater, only the one that incited it. Gemara says loy ema pater af mishas. You don't have a proof from that, because the fact that it says that pater, you imply that only the one that incited it is pater, and from that you made another implication that the owner of the dog would be chayev, but you don't know any of that. Could be that when it says pater, it's referring to everyone. Everyone's pater. Okay, so we don't have an answer to this question. Amar Rava, imtim telaimar. You're able to say. In a lot of translations, they write imtim telaimar if you find to say. So they translate for the kids because they think that matzi means to find, but matzi means able. It means both, but you don't have to take the hardest translation. Right. It means like even if you want to say, even if you say that that if someone incites the dog on another person, the owner of the dog is chayev. Of course, the inciter is not chayev because he was just the guardian. But the owner of the dog, even if you say the owner is chayev, but shisohu ba'atzmei pater. But if he incites the dog and it goes and it bites himself, then the owner is going to be pater. So in other words, Levi over here that was inciting Reuven's dog to bite Shimon, ends up it bites Levi. Taste of his own medicine. So Reuven's going to be pater. My time, what's the reason? Kol mishana, anyone that does something abnormal, and then the second one comes and does something also abnormal, so he's pater. So what would be the two things over here? He incites, and then the dog bites him. So it's sort of like he started the problem, so we can't make the other one chayev. Amalei Rav Papa LeRava. Rav Papa was a student of Abaye and Rava. He says to Rava, Itmar Mishmei Rish Lakish Kavasech. Exactly, Rava, what you're saying, Rava was the one that said Imtim Talaimar, was the one that said that even if you're going to say that he's chayev, but if he incites it and bites himself, it's going to be pater. Says Rish Lakish says the same like you. Dam Rish Lakish, we had this Gemara a few times before. Shtei paras precious rabim. If there's two cows in the public property, achas revutz achas malachas. One of them is laying on the floor, crouched down, and one of them is walking. Ubata malachas berevutza. The walking one kicks the one that's laying on the floor. The rule is ptura. We're going to say, why is he pater? Because he wasn't supposed to be on the floor. The other guy that kicked him wasn't supposed to kick him, but he started the problem by doing the abnormal activity. Revutza b'malachas. Let's say the one on the floor kicks the one that's walking. So then chayavis, that he has to pay because walking was a normal thing. Amalei, so Rava says to Rav Papa, actually in that case, I would hold that the one that kicks, I hold different than Rish Lakish. I hold that the one that kicks the one on the floor is actually chayiv. Because we say to him, you have permission, the guy on the floor tells the guy that's walking, he says, you have permission, this is the cow conversation here. He says, you have permission to walk over me. You don't have permission to kick me. Labuti be less lachashusi. You don't have permission to kick me. Yeah, sometimes people are like this. They see something like, what's this thing doing here? Throw it and it breaks. You know, you have permission to move it out of the way. You don't have permission to break it. So over here, it's laying on the floor. So what are you doing on the floor? He gives him a kick. So that's caused the damage. They say you have permission to walk over me or maybe to tell me to move, but you don't have that. You don't have permission for. So Rava has his halacha when someone incites an animal and it bites himself. His halacha is that he holds that he's pater because kol hamashana ba chibashina ba. But there's an exception to that. When it comes to the animal on the floor, we won't say kol hamashana ba chibashina ba because we'll say that he doesn't have permission to kick him. Okay, what's exactly the criteria according to this? Does Rebbe argue on the whole thing? We'll have to see see later. Yeah.
Obey him instead of the other person.
Right.
In the case of the spotted cow, like they didn't want to get kicked, but they didn't want the other cow to kick anything. She was just leaving.
Right. Yeah, but if you say that anyone that's doing something abnormal, then whatever happens to him, so then the same thing over there. Okay. Sorry. Someone wanted to say something? Okay. Right. Right. Okay, we have a new Mishnah here. This is a damaging ox in the property of the victim. Now, usually the damaging ox, we know, pays half price, right? Chatzi nezek, because it's not normal for an animal to gore. And if till it does it 3 times, you pay half price. It's called it's a shina. It's something that's done that's not typical. Now, what happens if it does it in a private domain? So that's what we're going to learn about in this Mishnah. Ketzad, what would be a case? Nagach, it gored. Nagach, it bangs with its body. Nashach, it bites. Rabatz, it crouches down. But it kicks. B'shus harabim shalom chatzi nezek in the public domain pays half price. B'shus nezek, what's going to be b'shus nezek if it goes into an area that belongs to the victim and it damages over there? Reb Tarfon, I'm a nezek shalom. Machlekes. Reb Tarfon holds that you pay half price. I'm sorry, you pay full price. Chacham say you pay half price. Okay, now we're gonna have to. We had this a bunch of times so far, but this is the origin of it, and then we have to get into the logic. Reb Tarfon. Reb Tarfon says, why do I say that you pay full price? If a place of leniency, referring to a public domain, where if an animal eats there or an animal tramples on something there, he does not need to pay. You see, the public domain is considered a lenient place. It's considered weak, a weak place. We're going to make a kal v'chomer. So the kal v'chomer works like this: if someone weak can pick up 10 pounds, for sure someone strong can pick up 10 pounds. Okay. So if in a weak place where shein in regel is pater, but you're machmer in a strong place, which is l'shalom nezek shalom, you make shein in regel pay full price in the strong place, which is the shusanizik in the victim's property. So if you're going to be machmer on keren, which is when it gores in the weak place, l'shalom chatzi nezek, to pay half price. If in the weak place it pays half price, in adin shenachmel b'shusanizik l'shalom nezek shalom, so for sure in the strong place it should pay full price. The kal v'chomer. If the weak person can pick up 10 pounds, then for sure in the strong person can pick up 20 pounds. Amrulai, they say to Reb Tarfon, Dayel of Amanadin Leis Kanidin. It's a classic rule in Shas that whenever you make a kal v'chomer, you can never come out with more than what you started with. If you say a weak person can pick up 10 pounds, for sure the strong person can pick up 10 pounds. You can't say, how do you know he can pick up 20 pounds? That you don't know. You can only get, it's like the water, I forget what it's called, when they get the water up to the same level, when they lift it up, like the way the toilet works. the water, you can make the water, but you can't get it any higher than where it started from. With those things that we did in school with the tube. So so you can't make the Kal V'Chomer go to Nezek Shalem to full price. You can make the Kal V'Chomer go to half price. The only thing you can get out of this is half price. Amar Lehem, Reb Tarfon responds, Afani le'yoden Keren mi Keren. I'm not learning Keren from Keren. I'm not learning that Keren is half price here, so for sure it should be full price here. That's not what I'm doing. Aniyad and Keren mi Regel. I'm learning Keren from Regel. And since in the place where they're lenient on Shein Regel, but you're machmer by Keren, it sounds like what he's saying is, I'm learning that if Shein and Regel are pater and Rabim, but Keren is chayev, so then for sure Keren should be chayev where Shein and Regel is chayev. And what is Shein and Regel chayev? Nezek Shalem. So I'm learning from Shein and Regel. I'm not learning from Keren. If I learn from Keren, I'll be only chayev chatzi nezek. But I'm learning that I should be chayev like Regel. Amrulai, they say to him, but nevertheless, you are only learning this because Keren is more strict than Shein and Regel in Rishus Harabim. And how strict is it? It's chatzi nezek. So ma b'Rishus Harabim chatzi nezek, ab b'Rishus nezek chatzi nezek. You can't get more than each of its parts, because one of the parts here is chatzi nezek. You can't come out with more than that. You can only come out with the least of its parts. Okay, the Gemara says for Tarfa Leslie Daya. What does it mean? You see, what happened over here is Reb Tarfon, based on other Gemaras that we've quoted, we said that Reb Tarfon doesn't hold of daya. If he has a daya, means it's sufficient. It's enough to get out of it what you started with, and not to take anything more. That's the rule. The nickname for that rule is daya. That's the name for that logic. Just like there's a name for the Kal V'Chomer. Kal V'Chomer fortiori, there's a name for that. That means that if a weak person, it's a type of logic. So there's a name for the logic that you can't get any more out. It's called daya. That's the name for that. Okay, so what Reb Tarfon really says is that if I have a Kal V'Chomer and the Kal V'Chomer is teaching me nothing, then I don't say daya. Then I have to get something from that Kal V'Chomer. I'll ignore the daya logic to get a teaching out of it. So, for example, here, the Kal V'Chomer would tell me that if in Rishus Harabim, in a public domain, when an animal gores, it pays half price. So for sure, in a private domain, it's going to pay half price. But I knew it pays half price in a private domain. I don't need a Kal V'Chomer. The Kal V'Chomer has to be teaching me something. So for that, I have to move up a level. In order to get something from the Kal V'Chomer, you have to move up a level. Now, it sounds like that he knows there's a Kal V'Chomer here, like from tradition, there's a Kal V'Chomer. And so what's the Kal V'Chomer teaching? That's what it sounds like. It's usually we learn that a Kal V'Chomer could be done without tradition, but it sounds like the way that Reb Tarfon's taking this is that he has a tradition. So what could it be teaching? It must be teaching that you pay full price. Reb Tarfon Leslie Daya. Reb Tarfon doesn't hold of Daya, but Daya deraiso. We see Daya in the Torah. The Tanya was started in a brisa. Midin Kal V'Chomer Ketzad. How do we learn a Kal V'Chomer? Vayomer Hashem al Moshe. Hashem tells to Moshe. What happened was Miriam speaks lashon hara about Moshe. Moshe davens from his sister Miriam to recover from the tzaras that she got, and Hashem says that no, she has to wait 7 days. It says Vavia Yarik B'fanei Halitikalim Shivas Yamim. If her father would spit in her face, would she not be ashamed for 7 days? So that means that she has to wait 7 days. It says like this. If her father would spit in her face, she would have to wait 7 days. What about if Hashem was angry at Miriam for speaking about Moshe? So would it not be 14 days? But we don't go to 14. We only keep it at 7. She only had to wait. The Jewish people waited 7 days for it to recover from the tzaras. You see, you don't go any further than the original starting point of the Kal V'chomer. Gemara answers. See, where our question is, Reb Tarfon doesn't hold of Daya. We see Daya in the Torah. So it says, Ki lesli Daya hechad demafrach Kal V'chomer. When does Reb Tarfon not accept Daya? That's if there's no Kal V'chomer there. We won't be learning anything. If it doesn't upset the Kal V'chomer, then Islay Daya. Reb Tarfon really holds of Daya. But he just doesn't want the Kal V'chomer to disappear. If the Kal V'chomer disappears, then he ignores Daya. But over here, explains like this. It doesn't say anywhere 7 days. Asa Kal V'chomer, I say arbasa. We learn that it's 7 days from the father. Comes along a Kal V'chomer and tells us that it should be 14. Asa Daya apik shiva v'kishiva. So the Daya tells me that put it back at 7. We didn't know what we were starting with anyway. So the Kal V'chomer is teaching me that it's 7. It already said in the Torah that you have to pay Chatzi Nezek. Also, Kal V'chomer would be bringing another Chatzi Nezek, V'nasi Nezek Shalom, either Ashta Daya. If you say Daya, then Afrech Kal V'chomer, then you're not adding anything. Basically, what the Gemara just did here is it says that I don't have any source for what should be, how long a Miriam should wait for upsetting the Shekhinah. I have no source for that. So the Torah tells me that the source is 7 days, that it's 7 days. And I learned that from the father. For Rabbanan, what do the Rabbanan say? What is the source? You see, the Rabbanan, they say like this. Shiva de Shechina Ksivi. It already says another verse in the Torah, 7 days by the Shekhinah. It says Tisaga Shiva Syam. It says she should wait 7 days. Now that it says a Kal V'chomer from the father, that should be even more than that. It should be 14 days. And the fact that I don't say 14 days teaches me Daya. Reb Tarfon, what about Reb Tarfon? Ahu Tisager de Dashin and Dayahu. That Tisager is not an extra pasuk. That's telling me exactly what we're learning right here, that I have to take it back down to 7 days. That's not the origin. That's telling me after I have the Kal V'chomer that I don't do any more than the Kal V'chomer, like Reb Tarfon holds, that I do say Dayai if I'll have the Kal V'chomer. But Rabbanan, you see, it sounds like according to Reb Tarfon, I would probably make her wait 1 day. Comes along the Kal V'chomer, or comes along the teaching and says that it's 7 days. According to the Rabbanan, I know already it's 7 days. The Kal V'chomer is teaching me nothing. And nevertheless, I say Daya, I keep it at 7 days. Reb Tarfon is like, no, the Kal V'chomer is teaching me everything. I didn't know anything before this. And the Kal V'chomer is teaching me that I say that it's 7 days. The only question is, according to Reb Tarfon, what about when it says the father? Okay, let's see. Rabbanan Ksiv Karachrina. The Rabbanan say, actually, we do have another pasuk. The other pasuk says, Vatisaga Miriam. That Miriam is closed away for 7 days. So according to the Rabbanan, even though the Kal V'chomer is not teaching me anything, but nevertheless I still say Daya. Rabbeinu Tamahu dafilu ba'alma dashinan Daya. That's coming to tell me that not only by Moshe Rabbeinu do I say Daya, because maybe I could have thought, don't say because Moshe was asking for her to recover. Right? Moshe was davening for her. And right, Kalna Rafanala. So instead of Hashem saying that she should wait 14 days, So we take it down to 7. Aval balma, but in a regular case, kamash balma loy. But in a regular case, maybe we do say we don't say daya, and we would keep it more. So kamash mala, and that in other cases we also don't say daya as well. It's not just because of the honor of Moshe that we lessened it to the origin. Okay. Let me take a look at your thing, because there was one point in here that was a little bit unclear. What do the rabbis hold? They hold that 7 days of quarantine for the rebuke of the divine presence are written, as it's stated at the end of the verse. Let her be quarantined for 7 days. Unlike Reb Tarfon, the rabbis did not construe this particular clause as a statement of the principle of daya. Rather, they take it to be simply a direct statement of the deserved consequence for the divine rebuke, quarantine of 7 days. They do, however, derive daya from the next verse, as the Gemara will soon explain. Yes, I'm not getting, according to Reb Tarfon, is there a kal v'chaimer by Miriam? Are not written, which means the Torah states only that the consequence of the human rebuke are known. 7-day humiliation, not those of divine rebuke. Oh. So that's what he's saying. He's saying that we don't know anything about what would be from a divine rebuke. So therefore, I learned that from a Kal V'chaimer that it should be, I only know that a human rebuke is 7 days. I don't know anything about a divine rebuke. So the divine rebuke, I learned from a Kal V'chaimer that it should also be 7 days. That's Reb Tarfon's opinion. And the Rabbanan say, no, I would know that the divine rebuke is also 7 days. And I should have a Kal V'chaimer that if a human rebuke is 7 days, the divine rebuke should be even more. And so therefore, if there is a Kal V'chaimer, then it has to be teaching me more than what I already know. But the Rabbanan say, nevertheless, we say daya. We're fine with the Kal V'chaimer staying at its original level. And Rav Tarfon says that over here, we actually have a Kal V'chaimer. We actually have a Kal V'chaimer, even that is teaching me something. And the daya is stopping it right there. But what it's teaching is teaching me 7 days. I wouldn't have known the Shechina is 7 days. I only know the human is 7 days. Okay. Now, Amalei Rav Papa Abaya. Rav Papa says to his teacher Abaya. So we had Rav Papa talking to Rava. Now we have Rav Papa talking to Abaya. We have one opinion that doesn't hold of daya at all, even if it doesn't ruin the Kal V'chaimer. He never says daya. We were saying that Reb Tarfon holds of daya, just if it doesn't ruin the Kal V'chaimer. Now we're going a step further. Now we have a source that doesn't hold of daya at all. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Okay, when I learned this Gemara, and he taught it to me in 7th grade, we skipped this piece for 2 reasons. One, because of I guess it was a mature audience, and the other one is it's a little complex. Okay, so
question, Ellie.
Yeah.
Does the Gemara go to the logical device of Kal V'chomer or Dayav if it's not only when it's necessary, when there's no other way to justify the halakha conclusion?
Explain. Tell me again.
I'm not explaining, it's a question. This whole discussion about when and how to use a Kal V'chomer.
Right.
Is it used only when there's no other way to explain the discussion in the Gemara or the halakha conclusion?
So what this is a limit. The daya is a limit on the kal v'chomer. It says how like that the kal v'chomer can't go further than where we're starting from.
The reason I'm asking is, it could have sidestepped this whole discussion by saying private property is different than public property. If an animal goes into private property, you're absolutely liable for obvious reasons. You know, you could have sidestepped all of this.
Yeah, but we're going to the background of where we would know this from in the Torah. And Reb Tarfon learns it from a biblical source.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
They have used the whole thing about the cow, that if the mouth is in the private property, that they're liable.
That was a discussion that we were saying that maybe there is no such thing as as the animal's mouth actually eating, paying for that damage. Maybe the whole payment is only for when it rubs its back. So we thought maybe that was the Gemara's sort of like the devil's advocate. But, okay, so the Gemara now says like this: what is the source where there's one opinion that doesn't say any daya? It says the Tanya was taught in a brisa. Keri bezav minayin. Okay, there's a person that's a zav. He's very tamei. He has a mission that's similar to what they think is gonorrhea, and it's an abnormal emission. He's tamei. If he sees 3 times, he's tamei for 7 days, and he has to bring a sacrifice. If he sees twice, we learned this recently. If he sees twice, he's tamei for 7 days. Let's say he has a regular emission. So the rule is that a mission of a zav is tamei not only if someone touches it, besides that he's tamei, but the actual substance is tamei if someone touches it, or if someone lifts it up, even if they don't touch it. If they lift it up on something else without touching it, they're also tamei. But by a keri, by a regular shechva zera, they're only tamei if they actually touch the substance itself, not if they lift it up. So now we're asking, let's say a zav has a keri, and someone lifts up that substance. Would he be tamei? If it's a zav, then he was tamei, but it's now, okay, so it goes like this. V'dinhu. We're going to learn this out from another halacha. What happens if a zav spits? So we have a rule that the spit of a zav is also tamei the same way. So it looks like this. So dinu, it's obviously a kal v'chomer. Ma tar b'tar. If there's if something that's tar, which means regular spit, that comes from a tar person, tamei b'tamei, but that would be tamei by a tamei person. Spit by a regular person is tar. Spit by a tamei person is tamei by a zav. So tamei b'tar, something that would be tamei by a regular person, which is talking about shechva zera. So eine din sheyeh tamei b'tamei for sure should be tamei by a zav. That wasn't our question. We know that it's tamei. The question was, is it going to be tamei b'masa if you lift it up? That we didn't have a source for. The Gemara says, "V'kamaisile bein lamaga bein lamasa." Unbelievable. It takes more than what it started with. It started with that if it's tamei by a tahar, then for sure it's tamei by a tamei. If it's tamei, if a shechva zera is tamei by a pure person, it's tamei. Someone that's not a zav, it's tamei b'maga when he touches it. So for sure it should be tamei even more than that by a zav. It should be tamei b'masa. Why do we say that? We should say the kal v'chomer makes it tamei, that it's just to be tamei. And now the daya tells me that it's not tamei more than what it started with. It's just tamei b'maga. Exactly. That's what the Gemara is asking. If I have a kal v'chomer, and the kal v'chomer is teaching me that it's tamei, you can't make it more tamei than where we started. We would say like this: no, because to make it tamei, I don't need the kal v'chomer. I know that it's tamei already. The leigara migavra tar. If a regular tar person has shechva zera as a mission, a normal emission. So that's tamei b'maga. So I don't need a kal v'chaimer that it should be tamei by a zav. Of course it's tamei. So the Gemara says no, because it's I still need the kal v'chaimer to say that he's tamei. Now, once I need the kal v'chaimer, then the daya makes sense. What we're doing is we're getting rid of this opinion that Rav Papa was bringing up, that maybe there's a source that says that you don't say daya even when there's no kal v'chaimer. It's necessary. The kal v'chaimer is necessary. I could have entered your mind to say that how does the Torah describe the mission? It says if someone has an occurrence at night, Misha Kirya Gayim light. That means someone that his tumah came because how was he tamei? Because of the carry. But this would be different because that person became tamei through the carry. This person was tamei because he was a zav already. Maybe I would say that the carry and shechvazara is synonymous. Maybe I should say that there's no that it only gives off tumah if it makes the person tamei. Kamash Malan comes along the kal v'chaimer to tell me that he becomes tamei even when that it is tamei. It is tamei even if he was tamei already before, which basically tells me that the kal v'chaimer is necessary. And if the kal v'chaimer is necessary, then I shouldn't say dayai. The Gemara says, does it say mikre laila that only if it makes him tamei, but not if he was tamei already? It doesn't say that, which means that you would have known it anyway. If you would have known it anyway, then there's no the whole point of the kal v'chaimer is to tell me something more. So it's telling me something more, then I don't have any kal v'chaimer without ignoring the dayai. The only way this would work is if I say that it's going to make me tamei b'masa. So it's basically I didn't end up with anything more than what Reb Tarfon would have held. Which opinion is this that holds that a zav that sees a shechva zera that shechva zera is tamei even with carrying? It's not Rebbe Lezer, it's not Rebbe Shua. The Tanan was studied in Mishnah. Shechva zera shel zav metamei b'magavein metamei masa. Rebbe Lezer clearly disagrees with that. He says that it's only tamei b'maga, not b'masa, only with touching, not with carrying. Rabbi Shua says it's even tamei with carrying, but that's exactly what we're looking for. We found the opinion. It's Rabbi Shua. The Gemara says no. It continues. The reason why a shechva zera of a zav is metamei b'masa is because there's probably droplets of ziva that are mixed into it, but not because it itself is going to be tamei, and because we have a kal v'chaimer and we ignore a dayai. So this can't be the opinion of Rabbi Shua either. The Gemara says, if not for that logic, that there must be mixed into it the droplets of the zav, then otherwise we would say that it's not tamei b'masa with carrying. Ela Haitana, we found another source. The Tanan was started in another Mishnah, L'mayla Mehem. It's working its way up. There's a Mishnah in Kalim. It's working its way up from different types of tumah. So higher than that is Zayver Shel Zav, is the actual substance that comes from a zav, b'reikai, and his spit, b'shechva zara, and the shechva zera, the semen that comes from it. Omemi raglav. Now, what we think, because we said shechva zera, we're thinking that that's going to be tamei b'masa as well. Omemi raglav and his urine, b'dam anida, the blood that comes from a woman that's anida, mitame b'mamaga b'mamasa. The Gemara says, maybe that Mishnah is telling me that it's only tamei because there's mixed into it droplets of ziva, but not because it's tamei on its own because it came from a zav. The Gemara says, then why does it say it? Why doesn't it say it next to zayvai? Why does it have it in a list of? It should have said zayvai shel zav b'shechva zara. Why does it say zayvai shel zav reikai? Reikai means it's spit. That means that it's coming to tell me that all the fluids of the zav are going to be tamei even with carrying, even not because there's zivas, mixed into it, but because any fluids of the zav are going to be tamei. So we see that we do have an opinion that holds that shechva zera of a zav is going to be tamei even b'mas. Okay. Amalei, we learn it from the fluids. Amalei ravachim idifti l'ravina. I have another source. This is exactly what Rav Papa did to Abaya before. Now comes along Rav Acha Midifti, says to Ravina, I have another source of someone that doesn't hold of Daya at all. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Mapat's b'meis minayin. How do I know that a mat would be tamei, like a mat that people sit on? How do we know that that would be tamei in a tent that a corpse is in? Tumas oyel. How do we know that would be tamei? We said Vidinhu. We'll learn it from a Kal V'Chaimer. The rule is when it comes to earthenware vessels, the only way they become tamei is if something touches them on the inside or the ear space on the inside. Now, pachim ktanim, they have a very narrow, what would be called the opening is very narrow. The mouth of it is very narrow, so the zav wouldn't be able to put his finger inside. So he really wouldn't be able to make it tamei. So it's tar by a zav, as much as a zav touches it on the outside, or even if a zav moves it. Even a zav that moves something becomes tamei, but that's only if they would be able to touch it on the inside. But since over here it doesn't have an opening that's large enough to be able to touch it on the inside, so it's going to be tar by a zav. But nevertheless, metame b'meis. But when it's in the tent of a corpse, it becomes tamei. So mapa, it's when it comes to a mat, shemetame b'zav. If a zav sits on a mat, it becomes tamei. In addition, metame b'meis. Sure, Kal V'Chaimer, that is tamei by a corpse. The kamaisila bein l'tamaser bein l'tavashiva. Now the only problem is here is that a zav makes something tamei for until evening. But over here we're making a tamei. This mat we're making a tamei for 7 days. But your source is from a zav, and the zav only makes a tamei till evening. So how do you get it to 7 days? It must be that you ignore the daya. You made a Kal V'Chaimer that if a weak person can pick up 10 pounds, a strong person could probably pick up 20 pounds. We ended up with something stronger here than what we started with. The Gemara says, "V'amai, ahani ka'ema, ahani Kal V'Chaimer t'masera, v'ahani daya lafuki b'tumas shiva." We should only go until tumas erev, that it should be tamei till evening, not tamei for 7 days. Amalei kvar ramana alei Rab Nachman ben Zechariah la'abaya. Rab Nachman bar Zechariah, I never heard that name. He asked this question already to Abaya. Varmalei Abaya, is it Rab Nachman or Rab Nechemia? I just have a ration on. What do you have? Nechumya? Rab Nechumya bar Zechariah la'abaya. Well, Nechume? Rab Nechumya bar Zechariah. Okay. I just have an abbreviation. Could have been Nancy. Okay. Abaya responded to him, Tana, mi mapets b'sheres ma'asila. You got it wrong. You got it wrong. You oversimplified it, and then that's why you had this question. Really, there's another step to this. We learned from that this mat is tamei. We learned it from a sheretz. We didn't learn it straight from a zav to a mace. We learned it from a sheretz to a zav. We learned from a sheretz to a mace. Bachi kamar. Mapas b'sheretz minayin. How do we know that mapas is tamei by a sheretz? We learned from a zav to a sheretz. V'dinhu. It's a Kal V'Chaimer. When it comes to the small jugs, that a zav doesn't make them tamei because he can't put his finger into the opening. But mitam b'sheretz, but it's still tamei by a sheretz. Why is it tamei by a sheretz? Because the sheretz is tamei on much less, a much smaller thing, because the sheretz could make something tamei with the size of a bean. A little piece of a sheretz could drop through the opening of this little jug. Mapats shetamei b'zav and didn't she tam b'sheretz? If pachim ktanim are tamei by a sheretz but not by a zav, so a mat which is tamei by a zav for sure should be tamei by the sheretz, right? Elamapats b'meis b'nayin, but take it one step further. How do we know that it's tamei by a mace? in a tent. Well, that we have a gzeira shava. Nemer beged va'ar b'sheretz. It says about a cloth and about leather material by a sheretz. Nemer beged va'ar b'meis. It also says about leather and material by a corpse. Ma beged va'ar b'sheretz mapetz tamei. By just like the cloth and material, then the leather material by a sheretz, that includes also a mat. Af beged va'ar b'meis mapetz tamei. By also by a corpse. The corpse would be in the house, so that would also be tamei, just like it's tamei when a sheretz touches it. Now the Gemara says that mufna must be that those words are extra. Now we have a rule when it comes to a gzeira shava that you can learn a gzeira shava, the verbal analogy, one from the other, but only if both words are extra. Dilay mufna, because if it's not extra, ikal mifrach. I could ask a question. Ma'ala sheretz came tamei b'kadasha. How can you say that the tuma goes that it just like by a sheretz, it's the mat is tamei? So to by a mace, the mat should be tamei. A sheretz is much more strict than a corpse, because a sheretz gives off tuma from such a small measurement of adasha. By a corpse, it would need to be the size of in a tent. It would need to be a whole limb. It would need to be. Well, it says so. Therefore, the words need to be extra. If the words are extra, then you don't ask questions. The Gemara says, it would need to be an olive size of the corpse to give off tuma. So the Gemara says, you're right, it is extra. Michti, sheretz iskas l'shich zera. We already have. It says a sheretz is compared to the shich zera, to the semen. The ksiv, if a man has a mission, and it says right next to it, if a man touches a sheretz, what does it say by the shich zera? It says any material, ashiel of shich and material that hasn't in the shich zera is tummy. Why does it have to repeat it again by the sheretz? That if the sheretz touches any material, it's coming to tell me that it's extra. Okay, the fact that it says beged and ar by a sheretz, I would have known all those halachas from a shich zera. So it's extra. Once it's extra, then it could teach me to the mace, to the corpse. But it's only extra by the sheretz. It's not extra by the mace. Says if you accept the opinion that holds that if it's extra on one side, that's already enough where you can't ask questions, then fine. Shaper, that's good. But according to the one that says that if it's extra only on one side, you can still ask questions. So if you ask a question, we would have a question right here that how can you learn from the sheretz that's much stricter than the mace because it's tamei even by a lentil. The Gemara says the mace nami afnei mufna. Actually, it's extra on both sides. It's extra by the corpse as well. Michti. The corpse is compared to the semen. It says anyone that touches a corpse or anyone that touches the emission. And it says by the shich zera, it says any type of material. Ashiel of shich zera. So exactly what we did before by the sheretz. So why does it need to say it by the corpse? It's coming to tell me that it's extra. And now it's extra on both sides. If it's extra on both sides, then you can't ask any questions on it. And that's how we have that a mat is going to give off tumah, not only till evening, it's going to give off tumah to 7 days. Because anything by a corpse is 7 days, tumah 7 days. So too this mat, which I learned from that is tummy by a sheretz, which is only tummy till evening. How did I know that? I learned it from a zav to a sheretz that is tummy till evening. Now I learned to a mace with the gzeira shava that it's tummy for 7 days. So this works out. If when I learn something from something else, I take on the halachas of the new place where it's brought to. So it started off by a zav to a shich zera, which tells me that it's tummy till evening. And then when I learned from from zav to a sheretz, which tells me that it's tummy till evening. Then from the sheretz to the corpse, it tells me that it's tummy until for 7 days. If I accept that when I learn something from one place to another place, it takes on, it like gets dressed up in the new clothing of this new place where it's now applied to, that would tell me that it's 7 days. But if it says that it always wears its old clothes and it always has to keep its old halachas, so how do you know that it's 7 days? I would think that it's only tummy till evening. Amarava, Markrava chibastim bigdechem b'yemashvi, that you should wash your clothes on the seventh day. Kol tumashat mitambe meisli epchus mishiva. Any impurities by a corpse is always going to be 7 days. Basically, we lost what we were trying to get. We were trying to get that there was someone that held that there was a kal v'chaimer and ignores dayai, because he'll say a kal v'chaimer and come out with his results more than what the parts that he put into it. We said that that's not exactly what's happening here. We're learning it from a Gezerah Shava. We're not learning it from a Kal V'chaimer. Okay, let's leave it over here.